What is going on, guys? We are back with another video today, and we're doing another non-Madden 19 video. I know, hooray. Gonna try to find more ideas to do so I can get out of that game as much as possible. But we're gonna be doing what I think will be the best players at each position after the 2019 season, or I guess supposedly for the 2019 season. Not gonna factor in the playoffs or anything like that, because that is still a team effort, whether or not these positions can give their team a huge boost for that or not. Also, if you do enjoy this video, maybe like it, subscribe to the channel if you're new. But let's start with the most important position on the field, quarterback. And this one, a lot of people have been, even though he's very underrated, a lot of people have been using this man as their best. I'm going to say Drew Brees. And the reason why I say Drew Brees is because that team is a very offensive-heavy team. Obviously, what team isn't, I suppose. But he is coming off of his most accurate season. Michael Thomas is obviously a beast. They actually had a pretty damn decent tight end, speaking of underrated, Cooke. They have Rashard Matthews. They had Latavius Murray. They have, obviously, a great running back in Kamara, potentially the best big three in the league. You know, it used to be Big Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell, but this is easily the New Orleans show now. And, of course, they didn't really lose much in the offseason. So, you know, what they were last year, they're going to be that again, barring any injuries, and better potentially. So Drew Brees easily, well, maybe not easily, but he's going to be my best 2019 quarterback. Of course, guys like Patrick Mahomes, you know, you expect maybe a Rodgers to come back and do well, but I think with Mahomes losing Kareem Hunt for the entire season, because obviously he's not on their team anymore, I think that's going to affect him. They still have a lot of weapons and a bad defense, which all, you know, that combines for a really good season for him. I still have to give it to Drew Brees, who, once again, is just getting better with age, it seems. I believe the only guy with more than one 5,000-yard season, and it's happened a lot. So, that's my guy for quarterback. And then running back, this one's tough because, obviously, a lot of new names come up every single year. It seems, obviously, like Saquon Barkley, Todd Gurley. But I'm going to have to go with Zeke Elliott. Going to go with Mr. Dependable here. Still has a good offensive line. Travis Frederick's going to return, which I'm pretty sure he's set to return, which obviously will make him even better, even though he already was the most, the leading yards rusher last season. He has Jason Witten now as his blocker. I mean, this offense has gotten better technically. Dak is still somewhat of a liability, so you can't really trust him to throw the ball. Obviously, when Zeke is out, that offense completely falls apart. Amari Cooper's going to play a full season there. I think Zeke definitely the most primed to be the best. The Jets, though, I wouldn't, completely knock Le'Veon Bell out. I know that the trend lately has been to say Le'Veon Bell's going to be washed because, he missed the full season. He's getting older. But the Jets, their offensive line got a little bit better. Their offense in general is lacking, so they may rely heavily. Like, they may run Bell into the ground, which won't be good for them overall, but statistically, Bell may have an insane season. But yeah, we're going to go with Zeke Elliott, who's I just love watching him play. And then fullback, I really didn't go into full depth with this. And I know I said Super Bowls aren't going to count, but because I don't care about the fullback position, I'm just going to say James Devlin, because he's a good blocker, he's a good player, and he might win another Super Bowl. So that's all I'm going to say. And then wide receiver, you guys are going to be thinking I'm biased, but hear me out. I'm going to go with Davante Adams. And it's not even because I'm a Packers fan. Okay, it is maybe. But, he's had the most touchdowns in the last 3 seasons with 35. He's had over 3,000 yards in that time as well. But the main reason I give him the best receiver in 2019 is because this Packers team is very depleted in their options. So this is going to be a heavy forced offense to Davante Adams, it seems. The man can run routes better than most, has a crazy release, he's got great hands, he can make people miss. I mean, he had a couple of was it a couple? I know he had a game ender because of like a spin move, I'm pretty sure. He makes crazy jump ball catches, he's got an insane vertical. He's a great player, and like I said, the main thing for me giving him number 1 is there's really no one on this roster. When you think of an elite quarterback, an elite wide receiver, there's usually a second guy, right? The only other team I can think of is the Pittsburgh Steelers with Juju Smith-Schuster. But right now, the Packers, Jimmy Graham is the starting tight end who is he? I don't even know who he is at this point. The number 2 wide receiver is going to be Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Half of you never even heard of him. And then our running back is Aaron Jones, which a lot of you guys haven't heard of either. I really do like him, in fairness. The offensive line is still 50-50. If Rodgers is going to have a big year, Davante Adams is going to be the best receiver in the league. Of course, you can obviously say, oh, Michael Thomas had the most yards. Hopkins is insane. Julio is insane. Julio has some help. So, the receiving options, it might change up a little bit. Hopkins, maybe not as much. Michael Thomas, not as much either, I suppose. But without a doubt, the Packers receivers core is just literally Davante Adams at this point. If Davante Adams goes down, the Packers season is over before it begins, basically. So there's that. Then we're going to go with tight end, and I was going to put this for Zach Ertz, but then I was starting to look at it. At the end of the day, will any of these tight ends do as much as Zach Ertz? Probably not. But at the end of the day, we're going to kind of be talking about stats, aren't we? We're talking about, Patrick Mahomes was insane, but would he have been as insane if he had a really good defense? Probably not. Is that a knock on him? Hell no. But still, it plays a factor. But we're going to give this to Travis Kelce. I know George Kittle had an insane, historic year. So did Travis before Kittle ruined that. But I have to go with the guy that's been so damn consistent. For a tight end, he may be one of the most consistent tight ends in the league. It's ridiculous. I did have Ertz on this list. I had him as my number 1, but then I started thinking, I was like, damn, Travis, you are insane. And not to mention, Ertz hadn't even cracked the 1,000-yard list until last season. So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like Wentz is going to get back to that, just dink and dime. Well, not dink and dime, but they're going to dink and dime with Ertz. They're going to just look for the possession with Ertz. I think Ertz's numbers are definitely going to drop again. Travis Kelce, without a guy like Kareem Hunt, they may even go higher. Kittle, obviously he's primed for another really good season as well, but it's between Kelce and Kittle when it comes to the yards, the touchdowns. I think Kittle, even though they were insanely skillful players, he had a couple of plays where, the defenders probably should have brought him down, and, he had ridiculously long touchdowns that tight ends just shouldn't have. So I think you take those away, and Travis probably would have, held up for the best last season. So it's a little unfair, but it is what it is. And then left tackle, here comes some more bias. Now left end, it's close call. You got some guys like, Lawrence and Bosa. Cameron Jordan's a huge one, could have easily been number 2, but I'm going to go with J.J. Watt, a guy that was injured several years now, 2 years, I believe, playing maybe a combined 7 games in 2 years, but he came back with a vengeance last year at 16.5 sacks, 7 forced fumbles. I mean, that's an impressive year. When he's healthy, you could put him up there with the best. Top 3 linemen. They're really just top 3 pass rusher in the league when he's healthy. He's just unblockable, and I hope he continues to be healthy. I think easily the best, maybe not the best, but the best coming into 2019 at left end. And you got underrated guys like, Hicks and Calais Campbell, but yeah, J.J. Watt for sure. And then right end, obviously, is there really much of an argument here? Aaron Donald, probably the best pass rusher in the league, had 20.5 sacks. I know he shifted around that D-line a little bit more. He's not a pure DT anymore, but still, almost broke the sack record. I believe he broke the sack yardage record, so it's not just, he caught a guy half a yard on the line of scrimmage, he was trying to run or something. Breaking the sack yard record means they were probably pretty big game-changing plays. He had over 100 pressures. A guy like him can just completely control the game, which once again, kind of adds on to that. The Patriots' offensive line is insane because they pretty much just smoked him. They stopped him dead in the water in the Super Bowl, but obviously Aaron Donald is just amazing. DT, of course, with Aaron Donald, he was kind of the guy making Fletcher Cox not look so great, but now we're going to give it to Fletcher Cox. 10.5 sacks, lots of tackles, just a beast on the inside. The defense for the Eagles has definitely taken a little bit of a step back, but that's mainly because of injuries. So with him obviously being the most feared player on that team in general, not even just the defense, that Eagles defense, if they stay healthy, probably gets back to that great conversation. So I think, the underrated player finally getting his credit. I think that Fletcher Cox and the Eagles defense should, honestly, the Eagles are a little bit of a wild card now. No one really talks about them too much. Maybe lacking a little bit of firepower on offense, but if Wentz stays healthy, they could be back in that, Super Bowl contender conversation. Then you have left outside linebacker, which is a lot harder than you would think. You're like, oh, well, clearly Mack, but you still have Von Miller, and you just can't ignore Von Miller. But you also can't ignore Khalil Mack, especially last season. Came out with a bang. Obviously, injury issues kind of slowed him down a little bit throughout the season. But overall, even though he only missed, 3 games, maybe 4 kind of, he still had an insane year. 12.5 sacks, but the ability to just pressure the quarterback game in and game out all game long. He had 6 forced fumbles. He recovered 2 of them. He even had a freaking pick. All playing his first year in Chicago. I mean, honestly, for a second there, I thought Khalil Mack single-handedly ruined the Packers season. We did that all on our own, though, which was pretty cool. Middle linebacker, it's always been a 2-man race. There's no question about it. Bobby Wagner, Luke Kuechly, you name it. No one's going to argue it. But I've got to go with Wagner. Both defenses rank pretty similarly. But I think when you come down to the fact that I think when it comes, it's crazy to think because the Seahawks defense is somewhat falling apart, but Wagner still made the Seahawks defense relevant. And I know you could say the same for the Panthers, but the Seahawks secondary has been so bad. I mean, Earl Thomas injured, Shaquille Griffin, not bad, I suppose, but that Seahawks defense without him would probably be bottom of the league, and instead they're middle of the pack. Obviously, with the pass rush issue maybe coming up, it's going to be a little rough for them, but Wagner, Kuechly, both similarly great. And then we have Lavonte David getting snubbed again. And the reason why I say it is because I think Devin White will make his job a little bit easier. Lavonte is also aging a little bit. It seems a little crazy and almost seems like I'm a freaking Cowboys fan at this point, but I'm going to go Leighton Vander Esch, 140 tackles, 2 picks on the season. Cowboys defense is actually getting really good secretly. As much as we all like to laugh at the Cowboys and make fun of them, they have a pretty damn good defense at this point. Leighton Vander Esch just getting started, having that great of a season. I can't imagine that it's going to get any worse next year. So he could have a historic year next year, which would be insane. And that's why I have him as the best right outside linebacker. I know it's a little weird to go from 3-4 kind of look to 4-3, but that's kind of, back and forth. It is what it is. And then cornerback, a lot of people usually say, oh, Jalen Ramsey, this and this. But I'm going to go with Patrick Peterson. And the main reason is because the Cardinals, they ran less man coverage than most teams. I think they ran the 3rd least, 4th least, with 30% or something. And obviously Patrick Peterson being a man coverage expert, he would thrive for the man coverage. But even then, he still only allowed 52 catches for 364 yards. It was a really low passer rating when thrown against him. And, the guy's getting older, but he's still playing at an insane level. I'm going to give it to Patrick Peterson, but you can easily make cases for Stephon Gilmore, who has been locked down. Make cases for, obviously, Jalen Ramsey. You name it. Casey Hayward. There's so many different guys, but I'm going to give Patrick Peterson the edge. Just allowing that little of yardage and success against him when he's playing against the best players constantly and playing in a really bad defense that also, once again, didn't run a whole lot of man coverage. So the fact that there was even talks of them trading him is ridiculous. I don't know if there still are, but when I heard that, I was like, come to the Packers, please? Even though we're not really a great man coverage team anyways, but hey, we could be. Here, I know almost everyone in the world's like, free safety it's Earl Thomas, but I'm gonna go against the injury-prone Earl Thomas at this point, playing for a new team. I know the Ravens seem to get the best out of almost everyone for their defense. I'm going to give it to Eddie Jackson. And a lot of you guys are actually going to be like, about damn time. But the fact that he can just take the ball away at an insane rate, doesn't even have amazing speed. He's so much younger than Earl, but even slower at this point probably. Only allowing a passer rating of 55. And only allowed 256 yards, and he had 6 interceptions. Eddie Jackson's super underrated. I remember his rookie year, I was like, he's lucky, because he had a couple of lucky plays, where the ball was just kind of thrown to him. He was in a lucky position. It's like, Eddie Jackson's lucky. Those 2 touchdowns in a game, lucky. It's not lucky. Unfortunately, it's not lucky. He is a great football player. Then we're going strong safety. I know you guys are probably like, who the hell, what are you doing, man? I'm going to go with Jamal Adams. He had a pick, which is, maybe not one pick isn't great, but 3 forced fumbles, 115 tackles, only allowed a passer rating of 54. He's young. He's only getting better. He went from allowing 137 passer rating to 55. that's, or 54, whatever it was. That's a pretty big increase, in success. Obviously, it's weird to say increase when the number drops, but that's ridiculous. If it wasn't for Le'Veon Bell joining the Jets, he would easily be their best player, which, that's pretty impressive to be the best player on the team as a safety. If you look around the league, how many times can you say that? Maybe Earl Thomas now, ironically, with the Ravens, but, if it wasn't for new team changes, he would be the only guy with the team's best player being a safety, I think. So I think Jamal Adams will have the best season of 2019, along with obviously everyone else that we're naming. Go with David Bakhtiari. Once again, this list is kind of, well, not this list, but whenever the Packers players come up, it comes down to the Packers being talent lacking. And now I can't really say talent here lacking on the offensive line necessarily, but a guy that plays against, he toughest lineman spot, but more importantly, constantly wins his matchups, makes people look silly. And the most important part is, with Rodgers and the offense struggling to get players open and find players early, Rodgers is always running around. So a guy like Bakhtiari has it harder than most linemen in the league. When it comes to tackles, he probably has to play the fifth toughest team, Other teams like Brady, you know where your quarterback's going to be. He's going to be standing there. You know where you have to defend. But with Bakhtiari, he's constantly having to, work the same as Rodgers is trying to run around, find spots. Bakhtiari is constantly looking around and making sure he's going to keep his guy in a spot that isn't going to affect the play. Obviously, guys like Tyron Smith come to mind as well. Dak does run around a lot too, but I like the fact that Tyron plays with a better offensive line in general around him, I think makes David Bakhtiari the best. And just ratings-wise, he's been, number 1, number 2, same with Tyron, for many seasons. So I think it's fair either one would have fit the spot. And then here, this seems a little, preemptive, but we're going to go with Quentin Nelson as the best left guard. If we're talking about pure guards, he would probably be maybe 3 or 4, maybe a little bit lower. But as an actual left guard, Quentin Nelson's the best, pure left guard. He only allowed 1 sack in his first year, which is pretty good. I know guards aren't going to allow the most sacks, per se, even though this is the league now where the interior guys are almost better than the edge guys at this point, a lot of the positions at least. And the one thing that Quentin Nelson did do, somewhat wrong is he did have a lot of penalties. There's no doubt about it. But he was ranked the second best guard, and it was only his rookie year. So, of course, Quentin Nelson, I think, deserves it. He was, the safest pick for the Colts to take, and it was a smart one, with Andrew Luck being not, I wouldn't even say injury-prone, just banged up because that offensive line was rough. It was an amazing pick, and I think he was even rated the second best pick in the entire draft. And now center, there's a couple of guys, but I'm going to go with Jason Kelce, a guy that I feel like he just deserves to be the best center on this list. Huge in the Eagles Super Bowl run. I believe he only had 2.5 sacks allowed last year. He's been very solid. And, just for him to even come back to play another year when I'm pretty sure he was really thinking about retiring, I want him to, go out with a bang, hopefully have a whole healthy season, Carson Wentz, and he could really give it his all for him. I'm not saying they didn't believe in Foles, but let's be honest. If you got the backup quarterback in or the starting quarterback in, who are you going to block better for? That's all I'm going to say. And then right guard, maybe a little unfair, guy like Shaq Mason, once again talking about the Patriots offensive line where Brady has 5 years to, stand in the pocket and literally move 1 inch left or right and find a guy. But I got to give it to Zach Martin, that Cowboys line, whether it's, become kind of a stereotype now for them to just have a great line. Obviously, maybe downgrade a little bit, but, Zach Martin, he's just been too consistent. He's allowed 10 sacks in the last 5 years, and he's only missed 2 games. We know offensive linemen, specifically guards, get injured all the time. 2 games missed. And, he didn't have his buddy Travis Frederick there with him, so he's going to have even a better year, which obviously ties into us saying Zeke is going to be the best running back in the league. When we're talking about centers, Travis Frederick probably would have been the number 1 over Kelce if he actually played last year. So, Zeke, and best running back, best guard, Zach Martin, they've got a great line. The Cowboys, they have a lot of potential on offense. Is Dak the guy? I don't know, man. I'm done with the Dak convo, honestly. And then right tackle, you could say Lane Johnson. There's a couple of guys. Right tackle's kind of degrading a little bit over the years, but we're going to go with Mitchell Schwartz, easily the shining piece on that Chiefs offensive line, only getting better every season. He hasn't even missed a single game in his freaking career, and he's only allowed 2.5 sacks last year from a tackle position, which is very good, and obviously he was a blocker for what I'm pretty sure was the league's best offense in the Chiefs, right? I'm almost certain it was. I mean, Mahomes was insane, so I would assume it was. Then we're going to kickers. I know you guys love it. Going with another guy. I'm not just going to... Oh, I forgot to do punter. I'll do that real quick as well. But I'm going to go with a guy that a lot of people know the name of, but wouldn't expect everyone to be like, Justin Tucker. But honestly, Justin Tucker missed a couple of kicks. He's been consistent as hell as well. He's been great. But I'm going to go with Robbie Gould. I think... he's been insane. I don't know why the hell the Bears ever got rid of him. They got rid of him because he missed 6 kicks out of 39. That's your guy for all those years? I mean, Mason Crosby for the Packers had way worse. I mean, he missed that many in a game, just about, and we didn't get rid of him. They got rid of Robbie Gould for that season? Are you for real? They're probably going to kick field goals more than the average team, which means Robbie Gould will probably have one of the best seasons. So I know I probably should have went with Tucker because he's got a bit bigger of a leg. Once again, Lamar Jackson, another guy that's probably not going to lead them to touchdowns consistently. Another, field goal heavy team. I think you can easily make a case for Justin Tucker or Robbie Gould, but I'm going to give it to Robbie Gould. When you think of punter, you think of, Johnny Hekker. I'm pretty sure his name is Sam Cooke, right? I know it's spelled like Koch, but it's Cook, I'm almost certain. But the difference between the two is A, Sam actually did have a better season last year, and B, Johnny Hekker obviously plays for a team that isn't planning on punting a whole lot. And once again, we're talking about this Ravens offense. It's going to look a lot different, and they're going to struggle early more than likely. They're going to punt a lot more than the Rams, I would assume. Let's be honest. So I'm going to give it to Sam Cooke. But that is my list of the best position-by-position players coming into/out of the 2019 NFL season. If there's a guy that you think I criminally disrespected or even criminally praised, I suppose, let me know. I think there's going to be a couple of main ones. I think obviously quarterback, everyone thinks their quarterback is the best in the league. Everyone thinks their running back's the best. Everything's their wide receiver. But I think in fairness, wide receiver is going to be a big argument. Quarterback is. This is my opinion, you can't literally say I'm wrong, even if I'm dead wrong, at the end of the day, it's my opinion. You can't have a wrong opinion unless it's criminally bad, I guess. Like if I were to say the best defensive lineman is, like Jaron Elliott, I don't know, something weird, I don't know. But once again, if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe if you're new. Like the video if you did enjoy it. That's the main point. Follow me on Twitter, Jeromepkr. And the most important thing is let's get a conversation going in the comment section. If you have a list, you don't even have to tell me why. You can start it with Brees, Bell, Hopkins, list them all, and then someone might comment, bro, no way, Hopkins? And then, it gets rolling from there. Try to keep it friendly. I know the dislikes to like ratio won't be friendly, and if you dislike the video, that's on you to be weird, but this could be a fun conversation, so hopefully you guys enjoyed, and yeah, hopefully you guys come back for next video, but until next video, see ya!